somebody get hurt, whatever. Jake Paul's already his nose got busted a little bit. I think Jake Paul's gonna die. I think, you know, literally, like, we might actually see Jake Paul die in there. Anthony Joshua is a monster. That's the type of guy you fear more than anything. Because that's the type of guy that could do anything he wanted to you, and there's nothing you could do to hurt him. Even if you had like a stick. You might be able to get one swing off, but he's just gonna just tank it and have his way. Had to reset because the dumbass pedos came on here and made themselves look stupid. I was thinking about it, like the idea of like, oh, you're stupid because you mixed up Helen Keller and oh my God, Anne Frank. But it's like, let's be realistic. Those friar fairy tales, they don't matter much to me. So they might be like important figures to friars, but you know, to me they're just dumb friars. I don't give a fuck. Oops, messed up a name. You know, and you know the thing is, like, it just shows you how much that friar narrative is pushed on us, that it's like you just sort of you blend it together and you just, you know, it was a mistake, but it was interesting because it was 2 hours before somebody caught the mistake. Everybody else watching, that's a glitch. Even the trolls that were watching from the background and actually admitted it. Yeah, the pedophile that's here now lied, but still admitted it because they're so stupid. But it just, like I say, these are the same. This person is the person that announces that they're not just a proud pedophile, a very proud pedophile. This is a person who doesn't deny or discredit or debunk anything I have to say. Did they reset the stream? No, I did. The first one wasn't working too well. But the first stream, only the Mackenzie pedo was here and tried to cap, oh, you screwed up, you're stupid. It's like, dude, you didn't even catch it. You watched the whole thing. We all know that person is here every time, right? If you're one of my regular watchers, you know that the Mackenzie profile is basically my biggest fan. And they're here start to finish every time. So to come on here and pretend like they weren't watching the feed, it's just stupid. And then to say, oh, I watched the replay, and when I say no, you knew, I admitted I screwed up in the title, so you didn't catch anything. Oh, I knew it 2 minutes in. You couldn't have. You would have said something. And the only reason you know the title was changed is because you watched the first one. I mean, it's really, really simple. But just like so many things that I talk about. I mean, seriously, when you talk about something like the Havara Agreement, what could you possibly say? How could you debunk that? That's official shit. Or the the secure community network. There is no debunking that because it's just the truth. It's a really, really fucked up truth. But it's the truth. And so instead of even trying to engage in those conversations because you'll get slaughtered, you might try to do some other shit, but where is the opposition? If you're going to watch everything I do and you're going to try to cap when you think you have something, why aren't you trying to discredit, trying to debunk any of these arguments that are made? I think we absolutely need to focus a lot more attention on the secure community network. I went to their website and I looked everything up on there, and it's actually really interesting how little information is available on their website. You can at least find something on the wiki page. There's more, explanation on the wiki page, but it's just all so crazy. It really is crazy. When you start talking about these bullshit events that they orchestrate, like it's not. It's everything they do is like the Anne Frank story. It's like it's just because they're so arrogant and stupid. If they just pulled back a little bit and didn't try to make it so miraculous, then it might be a little bit more believable. But because it's always something stupid, she the original manuscript was lost, but she rewrote it at some point before she died, knowing that one day people would see it. So she shortened scenes and she used pseudonyms and just all kinds of weird shit where you just it's one thing to say she wrote a diary. It's another thing to say that she wrote this monumental manuscript with the idea that it was going to be this huge success. It's just fucking stupid. And then you get the narrative that, a couple of weeks before everything, the liberation, she was captured and she was taken here and she died and everyone was killed. All 8 people in the house. Well, out of the 8 people in the house, the only one to survive was her father, and her father was, and I want to look him up. That's what I'm going to look up first. Otto Frank. I want to know his narrative. Otto Heinrich Frank, born May 12th, 1889, died August 19th, 1980. Jesus, it's an old man. Was a German businessman and the father of Anne Frank. He edited and published the first edition of her diary in 1947, subsequently known in English as The Diary of a Young Girl. And like my wife pointed out, there's a reason why it's not The Diary of Anne Frank, because nobody would have given a shit about some Anne Frank. But The Diary of a Young Girl. What is it? What is it, little one? And advised on its later theatrical and cinematic adaptations. In the 1950s and the 60s, he established European charities in his daughter's name and founded the trust which preserved his family's wartime hiding place, the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam. Early life. See, this is where you always get it. Otto Henrik Frank was born into a German Jewish family. They're proud of that with the shit voice. Nee Stern, 1865 to 1953. Wow, she lived to be fucking 92. And Michael Frank, 1851 to 1909. Not as lucky. His elder brother was Robert Frank. The younger siblings were Herbert Frank and Helen Frank. They called her Lenny. Otto was the cousin of the furniture designer Jean-Michel Frank and the grandson of Zacharias Frank. Oh, really? I have no idea who these people are. His father originally came from Landau and moved to Frankfurt in 1879, marrying Alice Stern in 1866. Alice and Michael Frank placed value on a middle-class education. Otto had music lessons, learned to ride a horse, and visited the theater and opera regularly. Very, very middle class. That's very middle class. The Frank family enjoyed a large circle of friends and kept a welcoming home. Of course they did. Otto studied economics in Heidelberg from 1908 to 1909. Well, that's a lot of study in there. And had work experience placement at Macy's department store in New York City, thanks to a college friend his age, Nathan Strauss Jr. However, after leaving for New York, he had to return home briefly because of his father's death in 1909, September. Before once again leaving for the United States, he returned to Germany 2 years later in 1911. Because, back then, man, that cross-continental travel was just... ain't no thing. Ain't no thing. So what do you think his special, like, what kind of medals do you think? You think he's going to get, like, a Purple Heart because he's got military service? So what brass star, silver star, what do you think he's going to get? Frank served in the Imperial German Army during World War I. He and his two brothers were drafted for military service in August 1915, and after training at a depot in Mainz, he served in an artillery unit on the Western Front, in which most soldiers were mathematicians and surveyors. And they still won, huh? But it's amazing. Or at least did, well, I don't know if they won, but whatever. In 1916, he was attached to the infantry as a rangefinder at the Battle of Somme. In 1917, he was promoted in the field to lieutenant and served at the Battle of Cambrai, where two of his French cousins, Oscar and George, were killed in action. According to other sources, Frank was late returning home because he was ordered to confiscate 2 horses from a farmer and return them to the farmer when the war ended in defeat. He won the Iron Cross for his military service, told you. Marriage and children. Frank worked in the bank that his father initially ran, which subsequently he and his brothers inherited until its collapse in the early 1930s. Now that banker, devastating for the family, and they went into, shambles. If not for the Friar Federations of North America, then they would have likely, perished or something. They didn't get a buyout or anything, I'm sure. He married Edith Hollander, an heiress to a scrap metal and industrial supply business, on his 36th birthday, May 12, 1925, at a synagogue in Aachen, Eden's hometown. What? I thought... Okay, well... So he married an heiress. That must be nice. On his 36th birthday, May 12th, 1925, at the synagogue. Edith was 25 when they married. 11 years younger. Their elder daughter, Margot Frank, was born February 16th, 1926. So he's 37. followed by their younger daughter, Anne, on June 12th, 1929. So, what? He's 50? Or he's 40? Gotta love the 40-year-old dads. Edith died of starvation and disease in Auschwitz on January 6th, 1945. In late October, in late October 1944, Margot and Anne were transferred from Auschwitz to the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp, where they died of typhus. Because again, the whole gas chamber, like, why would they have been taken from Auschwitz? Auschwitz was the death camp. So they made it to Auschwitz, and then they were like, let's send them elsewhere. In 1953, Frank married Elfriede Fritzi Markovitz, a Holocaust survivor, who assisted him with the Anne Frank Foundation in Basel. Oh, I knew I heard your fat ass coming, but then I didn't hear your fat ass coming. She's fat, like a blimp, like a blimp with a big blimp on the backside, and then a bunch of other little blimps all over. She's just fat. My wife is so fat. You guys can probably see her if you look out your window. Oh boy. Which he launched a decade later. Markovitz's daughter, Eva Schloss, is a Holocaust survivor, peace activist, and international speaker. It must be nice. World War II. As the tide of Nazism rose in Germany, and anti-Jewish decrees encouraged attacks on Jewish individuals and families. Let's see, anti-Jewish decrees. Anti-Jewish legislation in pre-war Nazi Germany comprised several laws that segregated the Jews from German society and restricted Jewish people's political, legal, and civil rights. Major legislative initiatives included a series of restrictive laws passed in 1933. So much of this story, especially this World War II Nazi story, are kicked off in 1933. It's shocking how 1933 is one of those years. It's like how 1880 is one of those years, and there are certain years throughout history where like a ton of shit seems to happen. 1933, the Nuremberg Laws of 1935. Gosh, Nuremberg sure does have a lot of shit associated with it. And a final wave of legislation preceding Germany's entry into World War II and the Holocaust. Oh, a final wave of legislation. Are we talking about? Oh no, because the Havara Agreement had already been signed. The Nuremberg Laws, published in the Reichsblatt. If only people didn't have their desire to learn killed through the school system, which makes people and kids not want to learn and question, just live an easy life. Yeah, you are correct. You're not encouraged to question things. Or if you are, you're encouraged to question within some set parameters. Like if my kid were to go to school and start talking like I am and asking questions, he would literally get in trouble for it. right? He would get in trouble for asking, for wanting to know. And like me and my family. You know, like I've always say, I never did anything to anybody. I struggled. There were times where I needed to like borrow money from my grandmother because my mom wasn't in the picture. But we would always pay it back and shit. So it wasn't anything like that. Literally, me asking questions about who we were as a family violated some rules that I didn't even know existed. Right on. We haven't been very talkative today anyway, Matt, so it won't be too much different. I appreciate your input. So this is the official list. Looking all scary and shit. Well, let's pick the scary handwriting. Okay, 1933 anti-friar legislation. The Enabling Act of 33 established the power of the Nazi-led government to pass law by decree, bypassing the approval of Parliament, in which, it was passed on March 23rd, 1933, and effectively nullified the Weimar Constitution. Now let's see. Is the Havara Agreement gonna get mentioned? You think? Morning, Bubber. What's happening? Huh?
Oh no, I just woke up.
No, tell me all kinds of cool stuff. Tell me secrets. Tell me all your thoughts on God, 'cause I'd really like to meet her. Morning, dude. I shan't be long there, Freddie Fryer. Oh, I slipped up. I said he was a friar. I shouldn't have said that. It slipped up. God damn it. Tell me all your thoughts on God, 'cause I'm on my way to see her. The law for the restoration of the professional civil service. In April 1933, the law for the restoration of the professional civil service, or civil service law, as it was more commonly known when passed, established the ability of the Nazi-led government to legally remove undesirables from the civilian service profession, including doctors, teachers, and lawyers. So it'll be interesting to see, like, are they going to back this up with actual factuals? Or is this just sort of a claim, like, it could do that? They didn't do it very much. When they did, that guy had a really horrible history. Like, is it one of those situations? Let's see. I'll just look up the actual law. It was enacted by the Nazi regime in Germany on April 7, 1933, a law which followed Adolf Hitler's rise to power by 2 months and the promulgation of the Enabling Act by 2 weeks, constituted one of the earliest instances of anti-Semitic and racist legislation in Germany. Biatch. Well, I mean, again, it probably doesn't mention the Palestinians. So I don't know how it could be anti-Semitic. Willem Freck in his cell in Nuremberg, 1945. Oh, look at that. That's bad. The primary objective of the law was to establish a national and professional civil service by dismissing certain groups of tenured civil servants, individuals of non-Aryan origin, particularly those of friar descent, were compelled to retire, while members of the Communist Party or affiliated organizations were to be terminated from their positions. I mean, we did the same thing regarding people that were considered communists. We had a very, very anti-communist regime that would arrest. That there were trials that were posted, that were played on TV, where people were getting accused of being communists, and this isn't anything too much different than what we did. Just like the work camps, at least initially before the bombings and all that, were very, very similar to the Japanese internment camps that we had, because we deemed the Japanese to be a threat and thought that any one of them were capable of being a spy or something like that. So they just rounded Japanese people up from all over and put them in these basically concentration camps. They just called them internment camps. And it was at the exact same time. And it makes you wonder, like, were the Germans doing the same thing? What we're finding is that lots and lots of these friars are connected somehow, probably to some conspiracy to create Israel. And we want to nip this in the bud, so let's round these people up and, just keep an eye on them. And it wasn't until the Allies started bombing the shit out of everything that they started really dying. And that's what the records show. The records don't show, because apparently the Nazis, just like Hamas, kept impeccable records. There's just no... the gas chambers thing just doesn't fit. There's no evidence to support it. Even what's said to be still existing gas chambers don't stand up to scrutiny. And that's like, it's pretty fucking crazy. So to act like they were so bad because they were against the Communist Party, are we kidding me right now? Additionally, the law forbade friars, non-Aryans, and political opponents from holding positions as teachers, professors, judges, or within the government. I'd like to see that for sure, because Hitler, by all accounts, wasn't an Aryan, and neither was damn near anybody you ever saw. Joseph Goebbels and whoever. Those are the only two characters I can think of offhand. Even his broad wasn't Aryan, blonde hair, blue-eyed, So this whole thing about this racially Aryan race, like, this whole narrative is just part of the manufacture. And it's just, it really does come down to how much you're willing to believe one way or the other. I mean, seriously, this isn't my narrative. I'm reading you what Wikipedia says about this piece of shit. Or no, this is just law. Sorry. This is what we're supposed to believe is the World War II narrative, the Nazi narrative. This is part of it. This is how they were. This is the nuts and bolts as to how they were so supposedly persecuted. Its reach extended to other professions such as lawyers, doctors, tax consultants, musicians, and notaries. Weird how they were, those are all the positions where they dominate to this day. Isn't that weird? Initially, the law sought the dismissal of all non-Aryan civil servants, but subsequent amendments were introduced to exempt World War I veterans, including serving since August 14th, not including individuals serving since August 14th, and those who had lost family members in the war. I mean, that's a pretty, broad spectrum. Okay, you have to be Aryan unless you are, you're a veteran of this. You've been serving since this date. Like, if you've been serving since the year before, Not so good. But from this date, and if you lost a family member to the war, well, then you can stay too. Like, where do you draw the line with family member? Is it direct family member? Or do cousins get included? And then how do you even prove that? You know? Yeah, I got a brother. He died. Yeah, no, he did. It's not like birth certificates and all that shit were real big things that back then. How could you prove? How can anybody prove that you didn't have a brother that died in the war? Let's see. The law represented a significant turning point for German Jewry, prompting notable figures such as Albert Einstein to resign and immigrate prior to being forcibly expelled. Boy, that was lucky for him, huh? Whew. Another provision aimed to remove personnel deemed unreliable due to their political beliefs, which is totally reasonable. Like, none of this is unreasonable. That when you throw in the Aryan part, that's the unreasonable part, but it's clearly just sort of an adaptation that's been put in to justify. Because for you to say, look, we don't want a group of people that believe themselves and their group to be more superior than anything else and have loyalties to, another nation, a theoretical nation, an up and coming whatever, but you can't have dual citizenship. You can't be loyal to something else and then be part of the government. Like, that seems like a really reasonable thing. These are all things that if they were introduced here, it would cause this huge uproar. If you said no more dual citizenship and to be a part of our, you can't have dual loyalties and be a part of our government, which is totally reasonable. Like, it's just completely it's so unreasonable to think that dual citizenship is okay, that there's not very many dual citizens with any other country. There's a lot of dual citizenship with Israel that's involved in government and legislation and shit like that. But you don't have a whole bunch of representation from, say, African country, dual citizenship with Africans. And, you get your Ilhan Omar, who is Somalian, and she's just attacked in some of the most outwardly racist bullshit attacks. You can't even believe a president of the United States could say such things. Imagine if Obama were to have said anything even close, especially if it was about, Israel. Imagine if somebody said the same things. I don't want them in our country. We don't want the Israelis we don't want them in our country. They've done nothing but bad. They just bilk and they take and they cause so many problems and so much hatred and stoke so many nasty fires, and they secretly control the government through groups like AIPAC and shit. Not even really a secret, but if you said something like that, let's say you're just some random guy in Michigan who's, pretty handsome, very articulate and smart, and puts forth such a good presentation that until shit catches on, the guy can get thousands and thousands of views. But once you sort of catch on that, holy shit, he's right and he's turning people, you have to censor him. That's how how crazy all this is. That's how you know none of it's true. If it was true, they would welcome it. They would welcome me, and they would let me go without governor, so that the random population would just fix the problem. Let's see. Let's go back. But to again, to not allow certain people into your government because of their existing beliefs. I always use the NAMBLA connection because it's so similar. Just because people call this shit a religion, it's literally just a cult. It's just another group. So just like NAMBLA, it's an organization. There's no legitimacy to it. Like, there's just nothing. If your thing was real, everybody would do it. You wouldn't. There wouldn't be 3 Abrahamic religions. You know, if there was any sort of reality to it, they wouldn't lock it away so nobody can see it. What fucking sense does that make? You're in a war for spiritual war, and your numbers are declining and all that, but you have the proof. You just hide it. How does that make any sense? Man, you can see why I reset my first feed, right? You know, this feed is 300% better. Now it's only 200% better than the first one. Because, you know, again, the guy that got thousands of views 6 months ago is now getting 2 viewers and 4 likes. Anyway, the thing is, it's okay to discriminate against somebody whose political beliefs are like mine. If my beliefs are that nobody is chosen, nobody's special, nobody should be able to circumvent the law, nobody should nobody should get any sort of special treatment, any sort of Semitism, any sort of, policy or predisposition favorable to them. Nobody should get that. We should all just be equal and work together to make the world a better place. Well, because I say nobody is special, the people that think they're special and demand that everybody else thinks they're special, they get really mad about that and act like I'm saying something that is so atrocious, it's unfathomable. Yeah, no. I think equality, progress, making the world a better place is so much more important than your goofy ass cult beliefs that are fucking nasty. You believe some really nasty shit. You guys do some really fucking nasty shit. And until you can show me, you can definitively prove to me that your thing is real, so that you can then justify those horrible things you do, I'm not going to accept that you should just be allowed to do those horrible things to your own children. I'm the loudest voice I know speaking out to protect the Jewish children. We need to protect the Jewish children. And I know there are people out there that won't like that phrase, that statement. But, outside of waking up to the idea that we don't need some sort of Abrahamic friar control scheme, we need to address the fact that there is a control scheme, and it behooves all of us, if that control scheme is no longer fueled by completely abused and fractured zombies that can benefit from genocide, and not just benefit from it, but be proud of it. Fucking proud of it. Yelling horrible things, and so many videos out there exist where somebody is interviewing somebody who is either a random Israeli, or maybe they're an ex-soldier, or whatever it may be, and they all just say the most horrible things. You'll see these sometimes pretty, but chubby little princess girls who, you wouldn't to hear, I don't care about babies, I don't care, bomb them all kind of shit coming out of girls' mouths. Like, it's just weird. It's a weird visual. It's a weird sensory experience because it's audio and visual. You know, it's not nearly as shocking when you see some little dick dude, you know, talking like he's badass and tough because, you know, he's got an internet between him and the person he's talking to. Fuck you, I'll kill you, oh, fuck you. They're like fucking psychotic, man. See, it's you look it up and it's gonna show you these nice little interviews. Today we killed nearly 100 people. No one cares. See, I want you to be able to hear it. Shimon Zimmerman is an American friar who lobbies against Israel's treatment of the Palestinians. Oh, look at the camera view. So watch when they're showing their. Look at, what is that, like 15 people? Wow, a whole 15 people. Oh, these little friars. Oh, now I want to see the ones where it's just random citizens. Ugh, look at these evil fuckers. Ben Shapiro interviews Netanyahu. I can't even begin to want to watch that. I mean, I want to, but it just, the propaganda would just be, you know. Yeah, see, it's funny how, like, if I'm on my Facebook or my Instagram, it just completely, you know, I just see interview after interview. There's this one guy with red glasses. I don't know his name. Let's see. Maybe it'll pop up. Mm-hmm. Nope. I'm trying, but I just can't find shit. It's like trying to find actual footage of Hamas attacking Israel. It doesn't exist. It does not exist. I just, you know, it's more of this. Let's just see. Einstein, another provision aimed to remove personnel deemed unreliable due to their political beliefs. Legislation defined Aryan lineage and established a distinction between Aryans and non-Aryans. It also included provisions for compulsory retirement and the retirement of providing evidence of Aryan, or the requirement of providing evidence of Aryan ancestry. A series of related ordinances was issued to implement the law and introduce further regulations. This stuff, right? You hear this stuff, and it sounds kind of scary. But when you start thinking about like the logistics of it, the implementation of it, it just sounds goofy. It just starts falling apart. Articles of law. Article 1 of the law claim that in order to reestablish, and you notice how they're saying retirement. Retirement is paid. You know, they're not forcing you to quit. They're forcing you into retirement where you're paid. Article 1 of the law claimed that in order to reestablish a, quote, national and professional civil service, members of certain groups of tenured servants, civil servants, were to be dismissed. Again, that's literally what Trump did, except it wasn't, you know, non-Aryans, it was people who didn't support Trump. But nobody, nobody's making those comparisons. Civil servants who were not of Aryan descent were to retire. Again, that's not a bad thing. Non-Aryans were defined as someone descended from non-Aryans, especially those descended from friar parents or grandparents. Members of the Communist Party or any related or associated organization were to be dismissed. This meant that friars, other non-Aryans, and political opponents could not serve as teachers, professors, judges, or other government positions. Shortly afterwards, a similar law was passed concerning lawyers, doctors, tax consultants, musicians, and notaries. Boy, they're just repeating, aren't they? As the law was first drafted by the Interior Minister Willem Frick, that guy that was pictured earlier, all those of non-Aryan descent were to be fired immediately. Now they're fired. See, I thought they were to retire. Fired is one thing. At the Reichsländer and municipal levels of government. However, the president of Germany, Paul von Hindenburg, objected to the bill until it had been amended to exclude 3 classes of civil servants from the ban: World War I veterans who had served at the front, those who had been in civil service continuously since August 1st, 1919, since the start of the war. And it's like, what are we talking? Are we talking about in the 30s here, right? That's 20 years earlier. And those who lost a father or son in combat in the Great War. Okay. Hitler agreed to these amendments. Again, how could you prove, I mean, it's not like we're talking about everybody had birth certificates and shit. So if you say, I had a son that was killed as a result of the war, he was out, walking, stepped on a mine or something. He wasn't we had a bunch of kids. Kids always died back then. People had like 7, 8 kids all the time because, kids would die. Hitler agreed to these amendments, and the bill was signed into law April 7th, 1933. In practice, the amendments excluded most Jewish civil servants. After Hindenburg's death in 1934, the amendments were suspended or superseded completely by the Nuremberg laws. So, in practice, the amendments that were put in place protected all of the friars who were already there. And it wasn't for another year that things started to change. Think about how ridiculous that is. Nonetheless, passage of the law was a crucial turning point in the history of German Jewry. It marked the first time since the last German friars had been emancipated in 1871 that the anti-Semitic law had been passed in German. That an anti-Semitic law had been passed in German. The unification of Germany. Did you guys know this? See, this is one of these things that you guys just don't know, right? And this is why doing these history dives are so difficult, because you keep going down these rabbit holes and you get to a new place that takes you deeper instead of staying in that one spot and learning about that one thing. You're like, oh shit, I can go deeper. So the unification of Germany was a process of building the first nation state for Germans with federal features based on the concept of Lesser Germany, one without Habsburgs, multi-ethnic Austrian, one without the Habsburgs, multi-ethnic Austria, or its German-speaking part. Okay? It commenced on August 18th, 1866, with the adoption of the North German Confederation Treaty, establishing the North German Confederation, initially a military alliance de facto dominated by the Kingdom of Prussia, which was subsequently deepened through adoption of the North German Constitution. States of the German Empire, when the Duchy of Saxe-Lauenburg was merged into the Kingdom of Prussia on July 1st, 1876. And that's a lot. That's a lot. And you think about this. So 1870s and shit, right? How is anybody policing such a large territory? How is anybody governing such a large territory? I mean, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of miles, thousands of miles, maybe. I mean, in circumference, it's thousands of miles for sure. You have people out in the middle of nowhere. We're talking about 1870s where it's not like there's infrastructure everywhere, or is there? And if there is, how the fuck did it get there? You know, this is where the history starts getting weird, because you start looking into it and you're going, wait, so they had roads with sewage pipes and underground tunnel systems and clockworks that ran on fucking, pneumatic systems, and you start learning about all these weird advances, and you start, if you start looking into the pictures and all that, you go, who built it all? Who built all those buildings? Who was the technological wizard that was putting all of this together in the 1870s? Huh?
It's coming against your church. Keep an eye out for years.
I mean, it's just wild, and I find myself in the same position over and over again, always. Where I'm sitting here trying to make sense of the narrative that we're given when it doesn't make sense. I mean, I feel like, here, Versailles. So the Palace of Versailles is right there. That's where the participants in this were the Kingdom of Prussia, the Kingdom of Saxony, Grand Duchy of Mecklenburg, Schwerin, Schwerin, Grand Duchy of Mecklenburg, Strelitz, Grand Duchy. Is it Duchy? D-U-C-H-Y? It's Duchy. Duchy?
Duchy, I guess.
I don't know how to say that. The Grand D of Saxe, Weimar, Eisenach. The D of Saxe, Lauenburg. The D of Anhalt. The D of Brunswick. The D of Saxe-Altenburg. The D of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. The D of Saxe-Meiningen. The Principality of Lippe, L-I-P-P-E. The Principality of Rus-Gera. The Principality of Rus-Gritz. The Principality of Schamberg-Lippe. The Principality of Schwarzburg-Rudolstadt. The Principality of Schwarzburg-Soderheisen. The Principality of Waldeck and Piemont. Or Piemont. Interesting how, you can see that two of them have the same flag. You see the one up by my thumb and then the one there at the bottom. It's the same flag. But I mean, look at all of these. These were all different, states, like Alabama and all this other shit. These were the states. But they were actually no. They were These were all individual countries. Actually, that's why they all had their own little flag. They were run by this family or that family and had been for generations, and each one had their big giant castles, and and somehow, and interestingly, a lot of these will have been that way for hundreds of years. And they'll each have their own money, which is why the court Jew was such an important person. He was the money changer. And if you came from one of these, the D of Saxe-Lauenburg, and you wanted to go to the Principality of Rus-Jera, here he is. Here, let me have that. Let me have that. Then he's here. You would have to go, you would take your money to the court Jew, and he would give you the equivalence in whatever the money is for that. But I always want to know, like, how are they printing money? How are they smelting money? Millions and millions of coins. Each one had to have hundreds of thousands at the very least of coins. Intricate coins with the person's face on it, and then the design, and then of course on the back it'll have all the same Freemason symbols throughout. Like it's fucking crazy. Good morning. I'm just yelling down because I can't come down. Let's see, Brunswick. Let's see. The Duchy of Brunswick was a historical German state that ceased to exist in 1918. Its capital was the city of Brunswick. It was established as a successor state of the Principality of Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel by the Congress of Vienna in 1815. In the course of the 19th century history of Germany, the duchy, was part of the German Confederation, the North German Confederation, and from 1871, the German Empire. It was established after the end of World War I, or it was de-established after the end of World War I. Its territory was incorporated into the Weimar Republic as the Free State of Brunswick. So this is their coat of arms. Jesus Christ. But of course, it's all the same fucking symbols, the same lions doing the same pose, the eagles, the crowns, the knights, all of it. It's all the same. It's all showing the same, the same connection, the same hierarchy. They all clearly answer to the same, but the curtains in front, the red curtains, and all of it. I mean, and then you even have like a smaller, really detailed thing down there that I can't even begin to make out. You have the red and white checkered flat part. And look at all this shit. Who are these guys with their clubs hanging out naked together? It is Adam and Steve. They always say it's Adam and Eve, not Ed. It's Adam and Steve. And you have to understand that. Look at this. Peacock feathers and panther claws, and like none of this shit is accidental. They weren't just like, oh, I like this one, put this one on there. Oh, I like this one, put this one on there. Everything, from even the way that the cords are like, coming up like snakes. They look like snakes. The ropes look like snakes. It's all designed like very, very purposely. The number of pearls on each rim of each rung of the crown, the number of jewels, the number of leaves on each one of those, all of it, they all symbolize something. The red and white checkered is not just because they like going on picnics. They have 4 different versions of the lion flag. Actually, 5 different versions of the lion flag, different colors, each one meaning something else. Look at how the blue one and the red one have crowns, but the other 3 don't. And then those ones in the middle, those are griffins. They're just hiding it. Again, I wonder what these black paws mean. I wish I could know what the black paws mean. I don't even begin to know where to look it up. The top flag was from 1815 to 1830, and the bottom flag was from 1830 to 1918. I mean, this is just crazy. This is how this whole thing works. And it's like, if you believe that the reset sort of happened in the late 17s, and you have these certain families all rising to power, or just be given this power, this rule over each one of these areas. And for all we know, they weren't violent enough. They weren't entertaining enough. There wasn't enough fighting. So they had to de-establish all of this individuality that led to unity and create all of these really negative. Because why anybody would want to give up their territory makes no sense. The restoration. So it says status, state of German Confederation, blah, blah, capital Brunswick, common languages German and Eastphilian, which is all one word. Eastphilian. Religion, Evangelical Lutheran, State Church in Brunswick. Government is a constitutional monarchy. Doesn't have a duke. Because it doesn't exist. From 1813 to 1850. Oh, no, this is the next section. My bad. This is the dukes. From 1813 to 1815, Frederick Willem was the first duke. Must not have been very good. From 1913 to 1918, Ernest Augustus was the last duke. Was the dukeship a 2-year position? No, because the one dude was 5 years, my bad. Legislature is Landesversammlung. Historical era, modern era. Restoration in 1815. What does that mean? Restoration. It covers 1,418 square miles. 1,418. It's a weird way to say it. 1,418 square miles. 1,418. It just sounds weird. Population in 1910 was literally just under 500,000, 494,000 people. That's a lot. 494,339 exactly. Currency. The thaler from 1842 to 1856. The Veersthaler, the Vierenthaler from 1858 to 1871. The gold mark from 1873 to 1914, and the papier mark from 1914 to 1918. So, crazy enough, it mimics the financial situation that was happening here, where they're establishing centralized banks, and they're going from the gold mark to the papier mark, where they took the wealth away from the people. And I would imagine there was probably some bullshit story like there was here, that the gold had to be, come on, turn in your gold because we need it, because you can't have more than $100 kind of situation. The history. The Principality of Brunswick, Wolfenbüttel. Here is the Principality of Brunswick Wolfenbüttel in 1645. It's this. Can't see much. I want to see what's on this map, if there are castles. So somebody went through, like, how did they even begin to map things out like this back in the day? And of course, the map is beautiful and has a key on it with the griffin symbols on there and the weird animals for some reason. The dog trying to kill the rabbit, the hare, and the horse and hound. Is that garlic? And then it looks like there's a lot of trees, but then it looks like there are, yeah, like, so if you look right there, there's a castle right there, and then above it, there's something. But these are castles. And then apparently you have a big old strange green lion that, again, looks very griffin-like. And then you have another bunch of castles and shit.
He had a whole chunk of his arm.
And then you have a whole bunch of different castles, and one's actually pretty big. And just more and more castles, more and more land, and like this is 1645. Who's living in here? Who's doing all this? What that looks like a town. Look at these castles marked all over the place. You see that all along the bottom there. All those brown spots look like castles. It's like, and what are these roads, or are these rivers, or what are these? Are these channels? Castle right there. I guess is it a waterway? I don't know. I guess it must be a waterway. But to me, I look at that and I think, okay, so 1645, right? This is what it looked like in 1645, meaning all that shit had been there. And remember, this is just a 1,400 square mile area. I mean, it sounds big, but in the scheme of things, 1,400 square miles is not very big.
What? See? Will you look around for him, please? I don't know how he dropped him.
Can I use this for a second?
Go ahead.
Okay, 1,400 square mile on square mile depends on the amount. Usually it's the size, but visually it's a large area, roughly like a square about 37 miles by 37 miles. So, that's or many times the size of New York City. To visualize it, you'd need a map showing a region, not just a city. Scale, man. Well, show me on the U.S. Show me what 1,400 miles looks like on a map. Here's 1,400 acres. Okay, cool. Show me. Okay, so that's interesting. So this is Oklahoma. That's the state of Oklahoma right there. And that little red dot is a 1,400 mile square plot. Or yeah, is a 37 by 37 square, a 1,400 mile square mile, 1,400 square mile plot of land, basically. So that's how small it is next to in Oklahoma. And that's this area that I just showed you on this map was that, 37 miles by 37 miles. And it had all those castles in it in 1645. The tale, Duke of Brunswick and Lunenburg, was held from 1235 on by various members of the Welf family who ruled several small territories in northwest Germany. These holdings did not have all the formal characteristics of a modern unitary state, but being neither compact nor invisible. What does that even mean? When several sons of a duke competed for power, the lands often became divided between them. When a branch of the family lost power or became extinct, the lands were reallocated among surviving members of the family. Different dukes might also exchange territories. The unifying element of all these territories was what they were ruled by male line descendants of Duke Otto I, ruled from 1235 to 1252. So let's look up Duke Otto I. Okay, so Otto the child is Enfinoft? Enfioft? What's Enfioft? Pronounced infeft? Infeft is the past tense verb infef, meaning to give someone, a vassal lord, a fief, land estate, in exchange for loyalty or service, especially in feudal times, or more broadly, to grant legal possession of land. Okay. So Otto the Child is given the possession of land with Brunswick Lindbergh by Emperor Frederick II. Lundberg. This is from 1448. Somebody, I guess, painted this in 1448. Why is it they always painted people like... Did we all have taco necks and shit like that? But look at... You gotta be quick. He can't be out there long, dude. He will literally, like, get frostbite real easy. But, like... So you see this painting where, of course, you have the symbols on the shields and the people in it. But look at the building that they're in. Who was building this? Whatever. I'm done. Two people. I don't even know who's here. I know Matt's probably... I don't think Matt's still shoveling, but still. This is fucking frustrating. It is what it is. You get your way. I'm frustrated, so I'm not going to keep going. Have yourself a wonderful day. You pedophiles, kill yourself.